Hello everyone, and welcome to what I'm going to call the Chalice Chat series, kind of related to Translation Born. This is going to be more of a free-form, kind of relaxed playthrough where we explore the Chalice dungeons, and I just kind of talk along about whatever happens to be on my mind. In most cases, that's going to be the game because that's what I'm playing. The Chalice dungeons are an interesting feature of this game. There is some important translation stuff related to them. They're significant, but at the same time, it's also a lot of combat, a lot of running through areas that tend to look very similar, and I wasn't quite sure how I was going to capture this experience because I wanted the potential to talk about translation issues. I wasn't sure if anyone would want to sit through and watch me play all this stuff, and I thought, well, this might be a good compromise. I'll abandon the more concentrated, presentation-heavy format that I use for the Translation Born series, go more towards a Let's Play, and at the same time get to show this whole process. And if there's anything that we pick up, any particularly important lore items, or even things like boss names that I can edit in to the main series if I get a spare moment, then I can just put those into the Translation Born series itself and discuss those in more detail. But for now, we're just going to run through. We're not even going to necessarily concern ourselves too much with translation-related material. We're just going to have a fun time running through these Chalice dungeons. So the way these work is they're kind of a whole bunch of pre-created elements that combine together in different ways, leading to I don't know if they're actually infinite, but at least a huge number of variety of combinations that are, in some cases, randomly generated, in some cases, constantly fixed in place. And there's a whole sequence of preset Chalice dungeons that you can run through, and, incredibly high variations of Chalice dungeons that you can create yourself at random. Kind of extends the replayability of the game a bit, I suppose, if you are someone who enjoys combat in the format of the Chalice dungeons. So here we've got a couple guys down, and yep, picking up some items. And the way these things tend to work is you spawn in by the lamp over there, not far away from the lamp. There is a door that leads pretty much directly to the boss. I'm going to climb up here and show that. Here we go, with these two statues holding what are currently purple lantern lights. This door is currently closed by some sort of device. We can't get through it right now, but it will lead us pretty much directly towards the boss. That's set up so that when you're playing through and you've unlocked everything and you've cleared out all the rest of the dungeon and you're just trying to fight the boss and it kills you over and over again, whoa, I ran right into that fire. You can get a quick run back. And it's a good thing I didn't run into that fire because I was standing in oil and it would have really hurt. And, oh, he came down to visit me. Let's go down to visit him too. That was the strangest set of circumstances I've ever been in to have to fight that guy. But so much for him, he is fully taken care of now. Also, I should say that this is my fifth attempt, I think, at getting these recordings going. Whoa. Oh, that worked. Okay, I didn't think it would work. Okay. Oop, still alive. So, I have some familiarity with... Oh, man. Oh, I'm still up here. Wow. Wow, this first layer is forgiving. Helps that I'm technically further than I should be. And, whoop! I'm trying to kill this bell ringing enemy here, because after she falls, those enemies that she is constantly summoning go away. And I like it when they go away, because otherwise they just keep filling up more and more of the dungeon until you kill them all, and that can be tedious and deadly. But as I was saying, I've been trying to get my recording settings worked out for this, and in the process have recorded this entire set of Chalice dungeons several times now, and had the audio or the video be no good, have something go terribly wrong, and it's never worked out until now. I'm really hoping that it's going to work out this time. But as a result, I'm getting to know this first Chalice dungeon, despite my inability to actually do anything to kill this guy. Please! Alright, you know what? I'm gonna stop going for a visceral attack and just hit him. Goodbye. Goodbye. You are more trouble than you should have been. But anyway, I have a greater familiarity with this first preset Chalice dungeon than I would like as a result of all this re-recording. Hopefully that doesn't end up having to be the case with every single Chalice dungeon. So this lever here, you can see it's also got a purple light. When we flip it, we get the unlocked thing, and then in Japanese we get the prompt, because this is the Japanese version of the game, and in the English version it would be in English. We get the prompt that somewhere in the dungeon the door has been unlocked. And now the light that was purple is green, and if we go back to that door before that I pointed out, we would find that it's no longer a purple light, it's green, and that the device is no longer closing the door. We can go ahead and advance our way through the dungeon. But before we do that, I'm just going to drop down here and do a little bit more wandering around. I want to try and fully explore these Chalice dungeons while I'm at it, just kind of make sure I'm getting everything. I've done the pre-made set of Chalice dungeons once before. They are crucial to some of the game's lore, which again is part of why I wanted to include this content. But I wasn't sure how much of it would be appropriate for Translation Born. So in any case, I was interested in that lore the first time through, and in order to get it, I decided to go through all the Chalice dungeons that are preset and figure out what I could based off of that. I've done that once before. That was years ago, much closer to when the game came out, so I'm not entirely familiar with all the layouts and everything of the Chalice dungeons. It's been some time. And I'm swarmed by rats. Swarmed by rats. Not the craziest of things, although in the later Chalice dungeons they can be more of a problem. But, so it's not necessarily all going to be new material for me, but I am sure I have forgotten a whole lot. Again, with the exception of this first dungeon, which I've gotten to know a little bit too well. And if you notice that I'm repeating myself a lot and just kind of running around in circles and not being very effective, that's also a result of the Let's Play format. I still am not fully used to running around and playing while I'm just kind of constantly talking and chatting all the time. But this is an experimental series, and I'm hoping it's going to be a fun one. I know that I'm having fun just kind of playing through and yammering on, and hopefully someone out there thinks it's worth coming along for the ride. But now we're going to go back. We've opened up the door as before, and I believe that's all the exploration there is for this layer. The Chalice dungeons are broken up into different layers, typically 3, but sometimes 4. This first one is only 3. And as we go through here, you can see ahead of us, there is a boss door. Sometimes, in these different segments, there are doors to the sides. Currently, these are not doors. They are also not hidden doors, because sometimes these Chalice dungeons have doors that are hidden behind what look like walls that disappear when you hit them or roll into them. That's not the case with this one. And last time, okay, it didn't happen this time, but the last time I opened the door and that giant just kind of hit me as soon as I stepped into the doorway, which was no fun, which is why I tried to immediately roll out of the way there. But I did want to kind of give rough approximations of what the Japanese boss names are here. This one is the giant corpse. So first character there, literally death. Second one, literally body. The third one is no, which is kind of a possession. You can think of it like the word of. It's kind of the quickest shorthand for that particular term. And then, whoa! Fourth one, giant. Fifth one, person. So, Kyojin, the last word there, basically just means giant. Shitai basically just means corpse. So we are fighting the dead body giant or the corpse giant. I'm pretty sure the official translation for this guy is corpse giant, which is entirely appropriate, as I'm sure you can tell. Let's see if I can... Nope, can't do it. That weird little growth on his left leg there, I believe if I manage to hit that, it will, yep, send him staggering, which will allow me to finish him off. So, there we are. Thus concludes the first layer. So we get some nice stuff for doing that. We get access to a lantern if we want to warp back, but I am not ready to head back just yet. I would like to try and advance through the dungeon. So I was just kind of talking about layers actually, which is appropriate because now we have access to the second layer of this particular dungeon. The Tumu Ruins. Some of them have different names. This one is the Tumu Ruins. For those of you who might be curious why we're able to access this, we picked up a chalice after we defeated the blood-starved beast in the main translation-born playthrough, which, after you get a certain number of chalice dungeon materials, allows you to open up these dungeons in the Hunter's Dream. And, yep, that door's still locked. So, number of ways to go here. And there's the trap. So, some of those traps are pressure plates. Some of them are more just kind of like magic circles. Sometimes they summon enemies. Sometimes they shoot arrows. And, man, I just got wailed on. If you're not paying close attention and just kind of blindly running around, it can be very easy to fall for all those traps. I believe there's also a guy who's going to jump out at me in one of these caskets somewhere. Maybe this one? Yep, it was that one. So, that's another thing about the Chalice dungeons. Easy to get lost, easy to get ambushed, all kinds of traps. Just crazy things in general. Oh, speaking of things that shoot arrows at you, I'm pretty sure that these things here, if I step on that pressure plate there, will shoot arrows at me. And I'm currently getting attacked by enemies, so I'm gonna draw them out so that I can quickly finish them off and then get back to the point I was trying to make. One more. Oh, two more. Okay, I was expecting one, I got two. That's fine. Alright, so long, buddy. So long to you too. Alright, I'm gonna run by real quick here, but as you can see, we got flaming arrows shot at us out of these statue guys, which fortunately you can break, and at that point, not so much of a threat. Fortunately. So some of the traps you can actually interrupt and stop having to worry about. I believe some of the traps you can actually turn against the enemies themselves, which is a nice little feature, but not one that I tend to use very often. I've got a lot of bullets here, but I've been incredibly reckless in my going through the dungeon so far, and therefore have... Hello. Therefore have gotten incredibly short on blood vials, which is a bad place... Wow. Bad place for me to be, especially with my health this low. I now virtually have no blood vials, so I might have to go back to the Hunter's Dream, or simply die, or something to that effect, if I'm not careful. I'd really rather not. That would not be ideal for my recording situation here. So, I'm going to try and stop playing quite so clumsily. And, whoop, hey buddy. Let's see. These guys are all red, which means there's probably a bell ringer somewhere around here. Yep, I remember. Here she is. Dodge. And let's attack you. And after a second, yep, they should all go away. Sometimes those guys who are all red are not summoned by the bell ringers. The bell ringers will... enemies that have been summoned by bell ringers will disappear when you take out the bell ringers. But if they have not been summoned, they will stick around. And sometimes the red enemies are summoned and will disappear. Sometimes you think they will disappear, and it turns out they weren't summoned in, and they're not going anywhere. I hate this roly-poly enemy. Very difficult to judge where he's going to be, what attack he's going to use. Hard to hit him, but Oh man, he swung right through that thing. Oh, is this gonna be the end? Nope, not yet. But I'm out of blood vials now. Let's switch to my gun. Maybe I can... Nope, that wasn't right. Very hard to read, these guys. Ouch. Oop, got him. I did not think that was gonna work, but it sure gave me back a lot of health. Sometimes those visceral attacks are quite nice, can come in very handy. But now that I'm out of blood vials, we are in a very precarious predicament here. Fortunately, however, we have pulled the lever, which means that we can, at least if we do die or I decide to go back to the Hunter's Dream, I'm just not going to decide to go back to the Hunter's Dream, so if we die, it won't be that long before we're back where we're supposed to be. We're back on track. And can I get out of here? Here we go. There's going to be probably a lot of me getting lost. These Chalice dungeons are pretty easy to get turned around in, and because they all draw on similar elements... Hey, 3 blood vials. Because they all draw on similar elements, they all tend to look the same after a while. Hopefully, that won't be too much of an issue, but hey, we're all figuring this out as things go along. So I think I have explored most of this. There might be a door on this other side here. Yep, here we go. And there's an enemy, so I know I haven't been here before. So long, buddy. Good thing it takes you forever to attack. I'm still not entirely used to my new main weapon here. I'm not the most common user of the Tonitrus, but... Yikes! Okay. It's getting the job done. And I think this is another one. No? No? I'm forever confusing which ones of these things do and don't. Oh! That, I believe, is the second time, not that anyone could see the first, that I have been mistaken about thinking that particular trap didn't summon anyone. It really looked like it would be a setup. Sometimes they're not. I genuinely was starting to think that one wouldn't summon anyone. And then, of course, it summoned people. There you have it. Isn't that just how Chalice dungeons work? And this guy, I'm very bad at parrying these guys, so I'm probably not even going to try. Yikes! Boy, they hit hard. And once again, I'm out of blood vials again. But I'm pretty sure... Oh. That gave me the opening I needed. Fortunately, despite the fact that I have been playing decidedly badly, I have managed to be a high enough level by the time we are entering this dungeon that I'm still able to deal with enemies fairly effectively, and it's not the end of the world if I take 1 or 2 hits. That is very quickly going to change. The Chalice dungeons are set to start out relatively easy with the first one, especially if you've already finished the game by the time you start delving into them. They're set to start out relatively easy. By the time you get to the last ones that you can access, it's a totally different story. They are the hardest things in the game. And, well, certainly if you're only playing through once. The first time I played through the Chalice dungeons, I didn't even start them until I was on New Game Plus 4. And as the game cycles go on, the game itself gets harder, but the Chalice dungeon difficulty remains set and the same. So that was an entirely different experience to the one that we are about to have together now. And, okay, this is a set of 3 bosses. We have the Cruel Protector, we have another Cruel Protector, and we have the Protector Boss. Those are all quick literal translations from me. I completely forget what they actually called these enemies, what their official names are as bosses. Please, yes! Alright, got the visceral. Time to run away. Time to run away. Gotta stay away from that one with the gun for as long as I can, while tempting these guys to attack me, hopefully getting the viscerals, like that. Please be the same one. Nope, that was a different one. Wasn't quite as lucky as I would have liked to have been, but it's not exactly a bad situation. Ideally, I would have stacked damage and finished off that one I was injuring before, but I'll take this too. That's enough to finish off that guy. Want to keep moving. Want to stay out of the range of the one who's carrying around that gun, because he's a big problem if I'm still having to deal with the ones that can do melee. And this is a pretty bad situation right here, but I think if I go over this way, I should be able to... Oh, you know what? I'm getting low on bullets, and my damage is high enough at this point that it might be worth it to just go in on these guys. Alright, so this guy here with the gun is in a bit of a bad situation for himself when I first get up close, because there's nothing he can do to me. He just shoots over my head, and then he has to pull out his melee weapon. There we go. Wow. Managed to take him down. So that's gonna do it right there for the first 2 layers of this dungeon, and also the first episode of this series. It's been a grand experiment, but I am incredibly low on resources. So I'm actually going to go down to the 3rd layer, but I'm not going to progress any when I get to the 3rd layer. I'm going to warp back to the Hunter's Dream, top off on my resources, and then come back, and the 3rd and final layer of this dungeon, the Tumaru Ruins, will be in the next episode of the Chalice Chats series. And the dungeon setup is pretty constant, which is why I kind of knew this lantern would be here. But until next time, I will see you later. Thank you for watching, everyone. I hope you find this to be a worthwhile experiment.